Good morning and good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Archicad User Group webinar series for 2024. If you don't already know me, I am Matthew Phillips, the Western Cape representative for TotalCAD Solution Center. I will be your host and moderator during these sessions. On today's agenda, I will introduce today's presenter and allow them to take you through their presentation. Once they are done, there'll be a quick Q&A session where attendees are welcome to ask the presenter any questions relevant to the topic. Now, without any further delay, let me introduce our presenter, Joshua Osborne from Central Innovation in Australia. He will be giving us an overview of the tools. Over to you, Josh.
So yes, my name's Josh Osborne, and I'm from Central Innovation. I'm actually from the New Zealand office. We're the local resellers of Archicad in Australia and New Zealand, and we also produce a suite of add-ons to Archicad, which are called the CI tools, and that's what we're going to go through today. There's about 15 or so individual CI tools. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through the top 3 or 4 most popular ones to show you what you can do with them, why they might be useful to you, and that sort of thing. So I'm going to be starting with the Doors and Windows tool. Then we'll look at keynotes and coverings. And then if we have time, we'll also have a quick look at the cabinets tool as well. Some of you may be familiar with some of these already, or you may know them under the name CAD Image, which is what our company used to be going back about 8 years or so ago. The CI tools have actually existed for over 20 years at this point, and they've been available to buy online for about that long as well. So some of you may have actually been customers of ours in the past, or maybe you already use the tools still to this day. I know there are a few of you out there that do that. So yeah, what we aim to do with the CI tools is we try to enhance the things that Archicad can already do. And we generally focus on 2 areas, those being the documentation aspect to increase your productivity with making sure that your drawings are documented in the right way. In particular, for tonight's presentation, the keynotes tool fits into that part. And the other area is to help you with your design flexibility, to allow you to model up things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to using the parts of Archicad that come out of the box, or to allow you to add extra detail to your project. And the Doors and Windows and Coverings tool both cover off that area, as does the Cabinets tool as well. So I'm going to start with the Doors and Windows tool, which you should be able to see here on screen. The Doors and Windows tool is the one that has been around probably the longest in the state that it is now. And it used to be called the Door and Window Builder, for those of you who have been around for a bit longer. And what it aims to do is it aims to allow you to create a wider range of doors and windows that you can using the Archicad doors and windows, and to allow you to modify them to a much higher degree of flexibility than you normally would be able to with the doors and windows in the standard library. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and have a look at some of the doors and windows and show you the sorts of things that we can do with these. So I'm just going to jump to my 3D view here, and we have doors and windows, windows and doors placed throughout this project. Most of these are exterior door objects, and we've also got a garage door down here. And one of the goals for the tool is to allow you to have a single object that you can just choose at the beginning of placing a door or window, and then you don't have to make additional choices at early stages in the process. So for instance, if I were to choose the door, the objects that are available are the door, the exterior door, or the garage door. You don't have to go in and decide in advance that you want to use, say, an arch top door, or a door with a side light or something like that. You can make all of those decisions later on down the track. All you need to know to begin with is I'm going to use I'm going to draw a door. And so once you've made that choice, you can then go through and design it in the way that you need to. So with the exterior door, and the same as with the window, you can go through and we have a graphical interface that lets you lay out the shape of your window or door. So you can see in this case, I have my door set up here. This is actually just a window, even though it's using the door object. We've got a fixed panel at the top here, which you can see there. It's split into a 2x5 grid, and then we have a fixed panel down at the bottom as well, and that's a single piece, but we can use this to do whatever we need to. So for instance, if I hit the plus a couple of times, we can create multiple inner pieces to this, and then we can change what they are as well. So we could change these middle two to both be awning windows, for instance, or we can make them both doors. So we effectively have a sort of a side light structure to our doors there. Two left opening doors doesn't necessarily make sense. So now we can go through and tell it that we want one of them to be a right door. And now we have something sensible looking for our doors. And from here on, we can add as much detail to this as we want. So obviously this is just the sort of the structure or the set out of what we actually have in our unit. But from now we can go in and we can do further customization. So we can, for instance, change most of the dimensions of the frames. And of course, you can leave this and come back to it at a later date. So one of the ways that we generally envision people use this is that they will place down a door or a window, which they know they want a window or a door there. They don't know necessarily what it will be. Place it in, set it to roughly the size that you want, and then leave it as it is. And it will look fine as a sort of a I want a door here placeholder. And then at further points later down in the design process, you can come in and flesh that out to be exactly the thing that you want it to be. So there's control over a lot of the settings. I'm not going to go through all of these because there really are a lot of settings, but you can control pretty much every aspect of the windows and doors. So you can control how much glazing there is, what the thickness is of the glazing, what the surfaces are of the glass pieces. If you have door leaves in them, what do the door leaves look like? Do they have splits for different panels and that sort of thing? Do you want to have glazing bars on those glazed elements? What about the hardware? You can choose what kind of handles you want to show on the inside and the outside separately. You can put in plates and kick plates, sorry, plates for the handles and kick plates. There's also a wide selection of exterior trims. So you can put on different moldings and sills and that sort of thing, as well as interior trims. And then there are allowance for shim spaces, and then the rest of the controls you see here control the way that the actual door or window element looks in the project. So we've got the surface settings. You can go through and set each piece of the glazing to have a different glass surface in it, essentially. And then you can go through and set the surfaces for the actual geometry of the unit as well. So the various hardware bits and the frame and that sort of thing. There's plenty of display options for how it should actually represent as well. So for instance, if the doors should be open in plan view, for instance, and if they are, how open should they show as in your model view? What do you want to show for, say, opening directions and that sort of thing? And you can also choose which parts of the window or door actually show in the plan view. So if you don't want to see the trims in your plan view or something like that, you can control these here. You can see at the moment this is set using model view options, which we recommend generally just because that will allow you to change these per view, but you can override them at any point and you'll get the settings to fully control what you want to see. So that is the door exterior. The interior door looks very similar. It doesn't have all of that extra glazing control. That's the difference between the exterior and the interior. So this will just allow you to put in different door types. The amount of leaves and that sort of thing can be set in the same way as it was in the previous object. But it gives you plenty of control here, and you still have that same control over the frame sizings and that sort of thing, and what the door leaves look like and the hardware and all of that sort of thing. The garage door follows a similar theme as well. This one's a little bit more basic because there's generally not as much detail that you need to put into these, but you have options of choosing roller, tilt, or sectional type doors, and it will model those in 3D as you would expect them to. You can open and close them and that sort of thing. And once you have your windows and doors, there's plenty of control over the way they actually work in the project as well. So for instance, if you want to change, say for this window meeting on the corner here, if we wanted those to actually not have a frame there, we just wanted to meet up with just glazed edges there, we can do that as well. So we can go in and change the shape and say, I think the left jam, I always get this wrong the first time, but let's see, left jam will take the frame off there, and then on the other one we'll do the same on the right jam. And now we have a frameless corner window. So you can control all of those parts of the way that the actual window or door is goes into your wall effectively and displays, obviously. And so in all of our views, we'll see that that has that nice frameless corner on it now. We also have a door and window schedule, which is part of the tool as well. And this is not a replacement for the built-in Archicad scheduler. It's just a sort of a different way of presenting windows and doors. This is one of them here. And essentially what it does is it builds up a elevation-based view of the windows and doors that are in your project. You can attach schedule notes to them, and you see nice dimensions on them like this. Obviously, if you're already comfortable with using the Archicad window and door interactive scheduler, that will continue to work fine with the CI Tools windows and doors. But this is just another option if you like it to look this way effectively, and there's plenty of control over the way that this schedule looks. So you can choose to filter out to show just doors or window elements. You can choose to filter out if you want. So you could say something like only include elements where the ID starts with a D, for instance, or something like that. That gets used quite often for things like having a internal door schedule and an external door, and they'll have an E or an I at the beginning of the ID or something like that. You can filter using that. You can filter using layer combinations, stories, and also the renovation status here. And then we also have control for the layout sheet that it is previewing the page onto here, the dimensions that are shown on each unit, and the way that it represents as well. So these are set to show exterior side at the moment, but we can control the way that that looks. We can get it to show both sides. We can choose to have it shaded if we like to, and we can choose whether the notes show, which is what you're seeing here, or the various IDs and renovation status and that sort of thing. And if I hit OK, this is going to regenerate itself, and you'll be able to see the change that I made to that. So it's just it's sort of a different way of representing things, which works in a lot of the ways that our customers like their doors and windows schedules to look. So if it happens to be the sort of thing that would work for you, it will be a nice complement to your doors and windows. But standard Archicad doors and windows will work in our schedule, and our doors and windows will work in the Archicad schedule as well. So you're not tying yourself into using our schedule or our windows or doors if you choose to use either way with those. So that is the window and door tool. And then moving on to a completely different side of what we're aiming for is the Keynotes tool. And what the Keynotes tool does is that, as you can probably guess by the name, it is for doing keynoting. So one of the things that we had noticed when talking to a lot of our customers was that in a lot of cases, people were having trouble managing the notes that they use in their projects. So there would be people in a lot of cases would have, say, a giant Word document that had all of their notes in it, or an Excel document or something like that. And whenever they needed to place notes, they would simply copy and paste the text out from that Excel document or Word document and paste it into Archicad. And while that does work, it introduces a series of problems. Things like what happens if you change the way that you are specifying something in one of your notes, or what happens if you want to change all of a certain type of note to a certain different type. It means that not only do you have to go and do the busy work of finding all of the places that you need to update, but it opens you up to the possibility that you might forget to update one of them, which can turn into trouble when you actually output the drawings and that sort of thing. And so the Keynotes tool aims to fix that problem by bringing the database of notes directly into Archicad itself. So I'm just going to open up the Keynotes palette here. And essentially what it is a list of all of our notes that we can place in our project. And they are smart. They're all linked back to the database that they are placed from. So we can use those to generate schedules, and we can smartly update those. Excuse me. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump into a floor plan view. And I'm going to place some notes in here. So these notes can come from anywhere. You probably do already have something that you use to store your notes. You might have a big Word document full of notes, or you may have an Excel spreadsheet. You may have some sort of online service or something like that. You can import CSV files into the Keynotes tool to be the basis of your database. And so that is the way that generally people will get those. This is just a sort of an example Keynote database that we've created. You can see it has a folder structure to it, which we have just broken down into sort of the areas of the building, essentially. But this can be categorized in any way as it would make sense to you. It can be not categorized at all if that's what you want, or you can have folders down to 4 or 5 or 6 folder levels worth, just whatever works with the data that you already have, or if you're making the data sort of from scratch for the tool, just whatever fits with your naming conventions or something like that. So what we can do here is we just go through our database, we find the elements that we want, and then we double click on them to select them. You'll see that my label tool has selected itself automatically when I did that. And now I can just go through and attach one of these just like I would with any other note, with any other label rather. And so you can go through and mark up your project using these notes by just selecting them as we go and placing them. So I'm just going to go through and place a handful of these so that we can see what happens next when we get to the scheduling. Because as you may notice while I'm placing these, and don't pay particular attention to where I'm placing them because just getting some for example's sake, but one of the things you'll notice is that what I'm placing here is not a full note. It's just a small sort of expert or a description, a title for them, and we will cover how that works shortly. So we can go through here and just keep adding these. You'll see on some of them that this description field, as I select them, has quite a lot going on there. And so that's what we're going to look at next. So obviously we have some notes documented in our project now. And so if I jump over into this layout here, I'll let it update. You can see we have those labels showing here. And what we're going to want to do next is we're going to want to schedule those. I've got my schedule there already, so pretend that that wasn't there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to generate a schedule, and essentially what that will do is it'll make a list of all of the notes that are used in this layout sheet, and they will be imported automatically with their full detail, and then they can also be updated automatically as well. So we're just going to go into the option to create a schedule here. We will choose to schedule the notes that are visible on this layout. And I'll hit OK, and it just automatically generates that schedule for us. So we see the full detail. So you can see 30101 internal walls. We are pointing to it over here. So we can have this nice compact little label just telling us this is internal walls. But then everything else that we want to say about the internal walls is stored in the full detail in the schedule here. So this is essentially shortcutting the process that you would have to do if you were doing something like this, creating a bunch of notes on your project and then writing up a legend for it or something. This is doing that part for you. Now we can go back to our floor plan view and we can go and add some more notes. So let's go through and just add a few more of these. That doesn't really make sense, but that's okay. And now if I jump back to my to my layout, you'll see those extra labels have appeared now, and I can just go CI Tools, Keynotes, update my schedule, and it automatically brings in that extra information. So I don't have to remember where I added new things every time I'm about to issue drawings or anything like that. All I need to do is go through and hit update, and I know that everything that is showing on my layout is exactly what I already have placed in my project. The other thing that you will likely want to do with checking inconsistency is making sure that if you change a specific note, that gets propagated through to all of the places that that note exists. So for instance, if I decide that 30101 internal walls should specify something different in here. So we can call this something like that. And we don't need to change anything in here. Let's do that anyway. So we've just decided that we want to show something different here. So it now says internal walls amended here. What we can do now to make sure that everything in the project is up to date is we just run what we call an audit. And what it will do is it'll search through our entire project in every view in the project, find any instance of that label that's been placed and update it. So you can see at the moment it is saying that on my floor plan view, there's a change that has happened. And if I make further changes, so for instance, what else have we got? 30401. That. Let's refresh our audit. You can see that again, we have floor plan. We've got another change as well. 30401 PC stairs have changed and internal walls amended has also changed. So we can just hit the repair button and then we'll automatically go through and update everything. So if I hit that, it's going to go through and do that. And you can see that our label now says internal walls amended. And what was the other one? Oh, this one here, PC Stairs B is now updated to have the B in it as well. So again, when you are about to issue documentation, or just if you want to make sure, if you're feeling twitchy about if everything's up to date or not, all you need to do is open up the auditor, let it do its thing, and then either hit repair and let it fix everything for you, or you can go through and eyeball everything individually. So one of the things that we can do here is if we had gone through and deleted one of the notes, we can deal with that as well. So if I select PC Stairs B and I decide we don't want to use that note at all anymore, I'm going to delete that note from my database. So that is completely gone. I refresh my auditor and it now tells me that on my floor plan, we have an orphan note, which just means that we have a label that doesn't correspond to anything in the database anymore. If I were to select that and repair it, it will just delete the label. But you can also swap that to a different thing if you like. So what we can do while we're looking in our auditor, if you don't want to just blast it with the repair and make everything update, is that you can select the element that it has found that is not in sync anymore and press the zoom to button and it will select it and zoom to it so we can see what we're dealing with, and now we can decide what we want to do. So instead of repairing it, we could say replace, and we can say, well, what I wanted to do when I deleted that other one is I deleted it because we have another thing that means the same thing. And so I'm going to make this one be 31001 floor framing instead, hit OK, and it will go through and update that label to say 31001. And now if I refresh my auditor, everything is in sync now because we don't have an orphan note anymore. Everything is caught up. So this will always run on your entire project. You can see at the moment I'm showing all keynotes in the current drawing, but if I say entire project, it will run on the whole thing. So you can do this either bit by bit in each view that you want to go to, or just do the entire project and check everything there. So if I change to that and refresh, you'll see that I have a bunch of labels placed in other views as well. So you can see I was using a few of these, which are now gone. We've got some redundant notes, and one of those ones that I changed earlier on is also visible on another layout. So again, we can select them and zoom to them, or we can repair and replace them based on what you want to do with these. Or if you just don't select anything here, you can hit the repair button and it will repair everything. So it's just essentially a two-click workflow to ensure that all of your labels are in sync. Just hit audit, then hit repair. And then once you go over to your layout sheets, again, it's go down to keynotes, update schedules. Obviously, you could choose to update all layouts. I've only got a schedule on one layout, so that won't do anything different for me. But it will just go through all of your layout sheets and update the schedules that are there. And there's also plenty of control over what is in the schedule, which you may have noticed as I was creating it. So we can also choose to do other variations as well. So we could choose to include all of the keynotes. So this would be to include essentially a full schedule of all of the notes that are in your database. You can choose to show only the keynotes that are used anywhere in the project. So this would be a good one to have on a separate sheet, which is a sort of an index of all of the notes that you're using. Visible in any layout is similar to the previous one, only it's only if they're actually on a layout sheet rather than are used anywhere at all. visible in the schedule zone layout is what we used before. So it's just anything that's visible on this layout. And we can also choose a manually selected schedule as well, which will just manually allow you to choose any notes that you want to display in your schedule. And that will go through and do all of those for you. So you've got plenty of control over how much you want to show in your schedule. And again, just audit, repair, and then keynotes, update schedule, and that keeps everything in sync. So it's trying to remove a bunch of busy work that you would have to do, and also trying to remove the possibility that you might forget something and get into hot water when you send your drawings out or something like that. So that is the keynotes tool. The next thing I want to look at is the coverings tool, which is going back to the sort of design flexibility and allowing you to model things that you wouldn't necessarily easily be able to model without using something like this. So I'm just going to go to my 3D view, and you may have noticed some of these already. I'll turn off my keynotes palette here. And you can see that on quite a lot of the walls in my project, we have this pattern of boards here. And this is the CI coverings tool doing this. So it is creating actual 3D, in this case, boards and battens that are placed onto the walls. And these are actual 3D elements. So you can see them if I go back to my ground floor view. You can see the actual representation of them in the floor plan view. And if we cut a section through, we will also see them there as well. So they're actual model elements in 3D. So this is essentially to make your model look more like it will actually look when you build it. So rather than putting a texture of some corrugated iron or some boards and battens in this case onto your project, or instead of painfully adding a bunch of slabs or tiny walls or something like that, you can model up that extra detail just by using the coverings tool to do that for you. And it's very simple to place, which I'll look at in just a second. And everything that is placed attaches itself to the wall that it is attached to. So you select a wall, you place your covering on it, and now that it's attached to that wall, if I make changes to that wall, so for instance, if I were to come through here and move the door in it, oh, okay, that was a bad example because I haven't synced that one up. It will move the covering along with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the coverings off a couple of these walls and go back to my floor plan view, and we're going to add them on again. So I select my walls there, CI tools, and this time we're going to go down to coverings, and we'll choose wall coverings. And now we choose what we actually want to use for the wall covering. So we have control over what we want it to look like. I'm in a sort of a locked down preset style at the moment, but I'm going to turn that off for now just so I can show you what we can do. So we have a range of different covering types that you can choose. We've got generic, which just applies a flat piece of covering. Boards and battens, which is what we're using at the moment. Bricks and blocks will apply a bunch of, as you can probably guess, bricks and blocks to the project. Corrugated metal will do corrugation, logs, etc. You could probably figure out what the rest of these will do. So we can go through and choose whatever it is that we want to do for our project. These ones are rotated 90 degrees, which is going to look silly for weatherboards. And then we can also control what they're made out of and how they look as well. So we can choose what the surface is on them, what the building material is for them, so that you can schedule those out later and that sort of thing. And then we can go through and make further changes to the way that it is set out. So we're just going to go back to my boards and battens there, and we can also go through and control some of the further settings. So for instance, we can put trims on the wall top and base, as well as the head and sill height. And we can also put trims around openings as well. So we can go and control these. We could say that we want to put some trims on the top of our openings. We'll choose a rectangular profile, and it will just go ahead and put trims on those. We can also do sill trims, which are already turned on in this setting here. And then we just hit OK, choose what side of the wall we want to place them on. And now if I go back to 3D, we will have our coverings back on again. So those look the same as we did before. We can also jump back in and we can change the coverings. So we can say, actually, I don't want to use those boards and battens anymore. I want to use, let's go corrugated metal. Rotate it around so that it's horizontal. And I will change the color there, hit OK, and that will just change, whoops, that will change the way that our covering looks here. So you can see we've got this 3D corrugation showing. It'll cast shadows and it will receive shadows as well. If we do a section cut through there, you will see what those look like. So not only is it adding detail to the 3D representation of your model, but it means that when you cut a section through, you don't have to draw on that extra detail yourself. It's already sort of essentially done for you. You're not going to have to draw that corrugation or your weatherboards or whatever. It's already going to be there. And you can see those head trims that I added before, as well as the sill underneath here. And then we can do the same with our roofs as well. So this building doesn't actually have a roof on it that we want to put a covering on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a new roof, and then we'll put a roof covering on it. So I'm just going to trace this shape that I've drawn here. So we'll just draw a roof there. It looks pretty horrible, but that's fine. And we'll do fairly similar operation here. So we'll go coverings. This time I'll choose a roof coverings. And now I can set what I want this to do. So we have a range of different types of coverings that we can apply to this. I've got shingles selected at the moment. If I just unlock that for a second, you can see what we have available. We've got flat, corrugation, ribbed shingles, tiles, and Spanish tiles here. So we could go through and choose something different there. And then we have full control over the way that that looks as well. So you can do all of your changes there. Obviously, with roofs, we have quite a lot more in terms of trims and sort of extra bits than we did with the wall coverings. So now that I've chosen what I want my cladding to look like, I'm just going to go back to something that isn't purple. Go back to shingles. We can also control the way that the flashings work. So you can choose how you want the flashings for the barge to look. So we've got flat rolled selected here. Our ridge is showing a rolled option here. I don't have any of these at the moment, but the aprons are controlled here, and the valleys are controlled here. And you can control the way that these actually work just using this drop down again here. There's plenty of different options for how you want those flashings to work. So for instance, if I wanted these flashings to be, let's say square instead, and for the ridge, we'll go with just a flat flashing there. That allows us to control those. Then further bits, we have framings. This is shown underneath the actual roof, obviously, but it will draw up some framing inside our roof so that when we cut through it in a section, we'll be able to see the roof framing. We'll see that in a second. Control the soffits, the sizing for those and the placement, and what surfaces you want them to show and what their building material is, obviously. The edge boards can all be controlled here as well. So you've got your fascia boards, your barge boards, and various controls for the way that those are drawn up. So the sizing, what they look like, and that sort of thing. The gutter, so choosing what type of gutter we have going around the edges of the roof. So there's plenty of different options there, and you can control just a dizzying amount of parameters for that. You should be able to tell from looking at this what each thing controls, but if you can't, just hover over these parts here and it will tell you what each bit is that you are actually controlling there. The downpipes will let you draw on downpipes and control the way that those look. What to do with gable end walls, if you have any of those. There's a couple of different options available there, so we can choose what we want to display there. I don't have any at the moment, so you won't see those. A frieze, a finial, and then all parameters will let us go through and control those if we need to. And then the top level lets us control a little bit about the configuration of the roof itself. So you can change the way that the edges are dealt with and the way that it matches the different edge parts of the roof and that sort of thing. So I'm going to stick with what we have here and just hit OK, and it will go through and draw up all of these roof coverings onto our roof. So you'll see a bunch of shingles on here. You'll see a bunch of gutters on here as well. So in my floor plan view, you can see the representation of those. And if I select one of the coverings, you can see we've got this dashed line here, which is showing us the soffit, and we can modify the depth of that to whatever you want. And then we also have these hotspots on the gutter, which we can pull out to place the downpipes wherever we want those as well. So I'll pull those out here. And then if I jump out to 3D, we'll be able to see what these actually look like. So you can see I've got my nice 3D shingles showing here. We have the alternating colors that I set there, although you can set those to be the same if you want. We've got the flat flashing that we chose that's placed on all of the ridges there. So it goes between the roofs themselves and will deal with intersections and that sort of thing. And then we also have the gutters that we had placed there. I think these are just round gutters that I selected there in the end. And you can see the downpipes that we drew on as well. And we can modify these downpipes as well. So once we have these selected, we can go in and we can grab the hotspot there and move them around to wherever we want those to be displayed as well. So you can set the way that those work as well. And as is with the wall, if we make changes to any of these roofs now, the roof coverings will follow along with them. Of course, I said that I realized I didn't actually show you that on the walls, so I'll do that again in a second just so I can prove it does actually work. But if I select my roof here and just let's pull this out a bit. You can see as soon as I do that, the covering immediately changes to reflect the change in the roof as well. So these will follow along everything we do here. If we go and drop a skylight in, the same thing will happen as well. It will draw some flashing around the outline of it, and obviously the skylight will be cut through. So it just makes it so that once you place these, you don't have to worry about going through and making changes if you update the element that they are attached to. And if I go back over to my coverings that I placed on the wall here. So if I grab one of these doors, for instance, and move it around, you will see that the coverings move to adapt to that as well. So we don't have to, again, we don't have to worry about those. If you make changes to parts of the wall itself or the windows and doors that are in it or anything like that, you don't have to worry about going back through and updating those after the fact. This one here would have done it when I had selected it, but this project is the one that I migrated from a different version, so I had accidentally unlinked the coverings there. But yeah, normally that will do that. So that's the wall and the roof coverings. We do actually have another couple of different coverings as well. There's one that will allow you to do foundations for slabs, and also decking for slabs. And there's also another one that will allow you to add fancy bits, I think is the technical term, to columns as well. To columns, not beams, as well. So you can use them to add extra information there also. But the roof and the wall ones are the ones that are used most commonly. And just before I finish up and go to the Q&A, I just wanted to cut a section through one of these so that you can see what sort of thing we get. So we go through here, and I'll just open that up. So you can see we've got those the shingles that we have placed are represented completely here, as well as the framing that we had. The gutter is represented there as well. We're not seeing any downpipes because it was a limited section, but you can see that all of the flashings and the framing and the actual shingles themselves are essentially all detailed for us already. So it not only gives you that nice extra detail to your 3D view, but it saves you a bunch of time when you come to doing your detailing and that sort of thing. All right, looks like it is. Yep, that's my time is up. So I think we're going to Q&A. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks
So if
so
anyone
much.
has any questions, go for it.
Thanks so much, Josh. That was really insightful. All right, so I saw a couple questions come in on the chat, so I'm just going to go through those.
All right.
So Lisa Cox was asking, can you add a plan view to the schedule as well? So that was relating to the door and window tool.
To the door and window schedule? No, you can't. They are entirely just the elevation views in this schedule. That's an interesting. I've never had anybody ask that before. But no, you can't do that. So if you did want to have the plan views like you do in the interactive scheduler, you probably will need to stick with that one. Yeah, it's strictly elevations only.
Okay. Right, then the next one is a keynotes question. Does the descriptions have any character limitations?
The descriptions, do you mean in terms of the length of the description or the what types of characters? I guess I can answer both anyway. The length, I think we limit it to about 512 characters. The idea is to sort of store about a paragraph or so, just so that you can get that extra detail. I do know of some people who store very large amounts of text in these, which it can handle. I think the limit is about, it's either 512 or 1024 characters. I can clarify that. I haven't hit the limit on it myself, but it is sort of intended to be, you know, a paragraph or two for each thing. But there isn't a thing saying, you know, if you go to 3 paragraphs, it's going to cut you off or anything like that. If you get to a couple of pages worth of text, that's probably where you'll hit trouble there, but that's not really what it's intended to be used for either. So yeah, you'll hit that. In terms of the actual characters, it can show standard ASCII characters. It can't do like emojis or anything like that. And the actual formatting of it is determined by the thing that it's in. So the label itself or the schedule determines what the format is. So you can't have the notes in the database be, say, bold or italic or anything, because they are just the actual text data themselves, and the thing that they're displayed in controls that. So for instance, in here, if I go through to the keys, I can say that these should be, so at the moment they're set to Arial bold 2mm, so you can go through and make changes to the formatting here. So we could do that, and it will make that change, but that's not inherently part of the notes themselves. They are just changed by the settings of the object. I hope that covers off the question there.
Yeah, I definitely think it would.
And
Next,
yeah, about the maximum door panels, I don't believe we have a maximum to the amount of door panels. But let me just show you how that works. So I'll just draw a new wall over here, actually. So the door here, so we could do some bifolds, and we could say like, I don't know, 18 of them, and it will just do that. Obviously, it's going to be nigh unplaceable with what I've got here, but it will in fact do that thing. In terms of using the glazing interface, so this is over here where we had the glazing panel layout. This is the same, so we can just add as many of these as we want. Obviously, this is determined by the width there. but we can just keep on adding these as much as you need. At a certain point, it will get difficult to manage because you can't see it all in the preview here, but that's not a hard limit on the amount of panels we have there. We can just use this button here to zoom in a bit, and then we still have control of what we're doing. So I can still go in and say that actually I want them all to be on the right instead, or change the size of them or something like that. So there's not a technical limit that I'm aware of, at least. So you can see we have, I don't know, a lot in this one. So yeah, it should be able to handle as many as you need it to.
Okay, great. We've got a coverings question. Can the level of information shown on sections be controlled? For example,
Yes.
if I'm doing a 1 to 200 section, I might not want to see every roof tile. But in a 1 to 50 section, I do want to see that information.
Yep, so the model view options allow you to control a lot of the way that these represent. So if you go to CI coverings and your model view options, we have settings for the model itself and for the plan view. They're separated so you can have them do different things. So if you don't want to show all of, say, for instance, all of the shingles on your plan view, we can say that on the home story, we want the cladding itself not to show. On the stories below, we only want to see downpipes, and on stories above, we want to see everything, which probably makes sense. So if I go OK here, you will see that my cladding disappears, but all my flashing, my downpipes, my gutters and everything stay the same, but you can control all of those individually as well. So you could say that you want the gutters to be on or off and that sort of thing. And it's sensitive to where you are viewing it in relation to its story. And then the model settings let you do similar things as well. So if you want to have section views where you can't see all of them, or 3D views where you don't want to have wait for them all to generate or something like that, you can turn them off there as well. Yep, but there's lots of control over there. And because it's in the model view options, you can have that different per view as well, obviously.
That's great. So that was literally my question as well.
Cool.
Just one thing on my side was whenever a new version of Archicad is released, when is the tools or when are the tools updated? Is it same time? Is it 3 weeks, 3 months?
That's a good question. We definitely aim to always have it released on the same day that the new version of Archicad is released. For Archicad 25, we were late by a couple of weeks because it took us a lot longer to get them ready for that one. And for Archicad 18, we were late by, I think it was a couple of weeks as well. But apart from that, every other time we have released the same day as Archicad. So I can't guarantee that we'll always be able to hit it, but it's definitely always our goal, because I know how annoying that is when you get a new update of anything at all, and the thing that you rely on to be part of it doesn't update at the same time. It's very frustrating. So that's one of our top priorities in getting these going. We also have a beta testing program. So if you happen to be in the Archicad beta test group and you want to use the CI tools while you're doing that, you can contact us and we can include you in that as well. So if you're sort of trying out Archicad early, you can also try the tools early as well while we're getting those ready.
Yeah, that's great to know. Speaking of testing, I just wanted to mention that if any of you know Thomas Ackerman, he does testing and major support this side of the world. So, you know, if people are struggling or they have questions or queries or they need assistance, that is the person that you can speak to. And back to the questions. Ruben, were you going to ask a question? I see you got your hand up.
Yes, good morning, Matthew. Good morning, Joshua. How's it, everyone? Joshua, thanks so much for the presentation. I think it's really insightful tools. I have maybe just two questions. The first relating to keynotes. Is there any relationship with the data that's already sort of compiled in Property Manager, or is there any synchronization that can happen between the Keynote tool and like your current Property Manager with all those classifications and so forth? Is there a relationship between that?
Great question. The short answer is at the moment, no. It is a thing that we really want to put in so that it can work with properties and classifications, but no, the Keynotes tool does not work with those at all at the moment. We do have a system called Attribute Notes, which does a similar sort of thing, but it is not related to the actual element metadata at all at the moment.
All right. Okay, noted. Thank you. But it's still a cool tool though, especially if you can. Are you able to sort of like upload your Word document or Excel, or is it a copy paste process from the data that you already have?
It depends what you mean by upload.
So for instance, if you would like to populate your specifications with descriptions that you already have from another format, is there somewhere that you can sort of import that information digitally, or is it
yes,
you actually have to populate it manually, the initial
so
all of that information?
This stuff here can be imported from a CSV file.
Okay.
So we have an example one, and it can come from effectively anywhere. It's not expecting a certain kind of CSV file,
Okay.
and it'll give you a sort of a translator when you import one. So you tell it, it'll open up the CSV, and then you can say my column, which is called this, corresponds to the Keynotes key. This is the title, this is the description, and that sort of thing. So you can import it that way, and that will bring it into your project. And then if you want to keep it in sync, rather than importing, you can just link to a CSV. And then if you make changes to that CSV using Excel, or if you export it again from wherever it came from or something, you can just, in your Keynotes tool, just hit this update button here, and it will automatically bring in any changes in that CSV that it's linked to. So it can sort of maintain a link to an external database or something in that way by working with a CSV. Yeah.
All right. That is great. Glad you said that. And sorry, the last question I have, I know there's other people also waiting. But this relates more to like the tools and the licensing of the tools. I assume if you purchase a sort of a license or a seat for any of these tools, it's sort of assigned to either a user or a workstation. It's not something you can't attach.
It's assigned to an Archicad license at the moment.
So it's not, so you're not sort of able to use the tools in a template in the office, for instance. You would need to purchase enough licenses for all the Archicad licenses using the tools, in other words.
For the amount of people who will actually use them, yeah. If you say you have an office of 10 people, but only 5 people want to use the tools, you can just buy 5 licenses. The other people, they'll be able to see them fine, because they can just load the libraries. They just won't be able to edit them or place new ones, but they'll display fine. So if you're sharing a project outside your office or with other people inside your office who don't have a license, that will work okay. But yes, if you want all 10 of your people to be able to say place new coverings or modify coverings, then you will need 10 licenses.
Yeah, sort of like a teamwork file setup. Basically, if there's 4 people working on the same file, everybody needs to have that license in order to edit with those tools.
To edit, that's right. Yeah.
Noted.
But you could have only 1 person editing and 3 people just seeing them but not editing. Yeah. Yep.
I doubt that will happen, but thank you so much, Josh. Appreciate it.
Exactly. Yes.
Thanks. I just need to touch on the one thing that I did want to talk to you guys about. So the reason why we're not talking about pricing, discounts, or costing, anything related to that, is because in the past, you would have had to purchase these tools directly from CI Tools in Australia. From May moving forward, you're going to be able to buy these tools from TotalCAD Solution Center. So you can reach out to us if you are interested. You can send an email to either Ronel or to info@archicad.co.za. I'll share it on the chat as well. So from May, we are going to have CI Tools as a product that you can purchase. And once we've got more information, we will share that through our channels. And if you want to get any more information from us, please send us an email. Right, Cynthia, let's hear your question. After that, we're going to close up for the session. Would you like to unmute yourself? Thanks, Cynthia.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Matthew. Thank you. I'm Joshua. Thanks for the presentation. My question to you is regarding the roof covering specifically. I've been looking at this plan that's been on the screen the whole time. If I had to edit the shape of my building, for instance, will I have to edit my Archicad roof first before I can edit the coverings, or how easy is it to just modify, say, make the top part of the roof longer to the left side, or to solve that problem of the valleys between the two roofs? Yeah, I think you're getting what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, it will essentially whatever changes you make to the roof will be reflected in the covering when you do it.
Okay.
So if you want to do that, you just make the change to the roof itself, and the covering will follow along. So if you can probably see it. I turned off
I
the
see what
display of the claddings,
you're
but it has gone through and it's been updating the flashings as I did that. So it will just automatically follow that change that you made. So the idea is that you just don't worry about the coverings. They'll follow along with whatever you do.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Right, that's everything on my side, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. I really hope you enjoyed the session, and if you are looking to take full advantage of these tools, please reach out to us. Let us know that you're interested, and we will share information relating to Python and how you're able to get it from May moving forward. All right, that's everything on our side. Thanks so much, Josh. Hope you enjoy
Thank
the
you.
rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys next month. Okay, bye.